Thank you for coming back to another episode of Boss Up with Mr. Key, the 2024 edition. But hey, man, today I got a guest, man. Just a brother off the same cloth, man. Actually, off the same name. A serial entrepreneur. In restaurants and hospitality. Like it just doesn't stop, man. I think this guy has no fear when it comes to pulling the plug on trying to grow. But without further ado, we have my buddy Artis here.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you for showing up, man. This is a pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, the show that we typically do, the thing is to try to inspire the next person out there, whether grown man, kid, black, white, whatever. Yeah. We want them to hear your story because they could be sitting on the couch with all these ideas thinking it's not possible, but see somebody like me and you and say, hey, you know what? If they can do it, I can make it happen. Yeah. So, let's take it back to, tell me, what hospital were you born?
I was born in a hospital called Woodford Hall Hospital out in San Antonio on Lackland Air Force Base.
Lackland Air Force Base. So that's where it begins, huh?
On Lackland Air Force Base.
Were you a military brat?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I always like to ask, what different places have you been in the world?
I've been to Germany, Colorado, LA, and Killeen, Fort Hood. Those are the locations I've been to as far as military is concerned.
Oh, okay. Nice. How was Germany, man? Is that a place you...
It was cool. It was a cool place, right? I mean, when you think about just the architecture, the way that they do business, the way that the land looks, it looks like it's 40, 50 years behind, but everything was so efficient. Everything kind of just rolled smoothly, right? It was different. The weather was a little different from a Texas boy going to Germany, right? I mean, you got the snow and the sleet and cold and
more
the cold
like the Midwest weather.
Yeah.
The steering wheel was on the left side of the...
Nah, we actually, since we were there for the American portion of it, like it was a base called Budigan. We had a little Renault that was on the right side.
So,
just
standard,
just a standard drive. And we lived in a little town called Ortenburg, which was once a prison village. Wow. And they converted the place that we lived in was a courthouse. So that was pretty cool. It's pretty interesting. They converted that into like apartments. And I think we were the only Americans. Maybe they were like in this little village. I think we were the only American kids that were in this village, and we were black. Wow. So right across the street from the courthouse, they had this big, we call it a mansion. People would get married on the yard out there.
Wow.
And the culture that they have in Germany at the time anyway was when they got engaged, they would collect coins, and then they would throw the coins behind them.
It's kind of, that's part of the ceremony.
Kids, and the kids in the neighborhood kids would come out, and so we were the three black boys out here grabbing coins, and they didn't
like, where'd they come from?
They didn't know who we were, but it was cool. It was a cool vibe.
You went to school? I mean, elementary or
middle school there?
Middle school?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the family dynamic? You, your brother, sister?
It was me and my two brothers. I'm the middle child, so got an older brother, got a younger brother.
The middle child gets no love, they say.
Yeah, middle child gets no love.
My middle son keeps telling me, Dad, y'all did me wrong growing up.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, cool. So you did that. Where did you go to high school?
I'm completing my high school in Killeen.
In Killeen? Oh,
yeah.
Okay. There's like 5 high schools in that area.
It was only 2 when I was there.
Only 2? Like Horseman or something like that?
I don't even know.
I don't even remember. Okay.
I mean, right now we just had Killeen and Ellison when I was there.
Okay.
But a Shoemaker and then some other ones they got out there right now.
Okay, that was like after the fact. So I mean, growing up in a household, the middle child, seeing the world, like having a different culture than probably most. Well, in Killeen is probably a commonality of that. But what kind of impact do you think that made on your life if you reflect?
I think the impact was significant, but I don't necessarily know if it made a more significant impact than kind of the dynamics, right? So when you think about the military, you think about traveling with a family as being in that specific situation. If your father doesn't have a lot of rank or is not in the officer rankings, then it's just almost like staying in the hood, but you're in a different city.
Yeah, I get it.
You know what I mean? So it's like we didn't get to travel across Europe and go rent cars for the Autobahn, and go to some of these nice landmarks that are there. It was just part of being in a different country. There were things that we've experienced, of course, right, that were different than
here.
Yeah. But like when someone takes now, like if I were to take my family there now, and I would want to show them as much as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Right. And then have the resources to do just that as well.
Right. Instead of being confined, like in the barracks or wherever they had you all living.
Well, no, we stayed outside because I think if you stayed outside, then you got more in your check, right? So they got more instead
housing
of
stipend, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
Yeah, so that's how that rolled.
Oh man.
But yeah, so I would say that when you think about like being able to see different aspects of just, you know, living in Colorado with the snow, and Pikes Peak was in our backyard, and we going down, you know, different, you know, we creating different pathways that take snow sleds down, and you know, having basements and things like that. That's a little different than being into Texas, right? Because we just, you know, for the majority of my life, this is all I knew. So it was kind of opened myself up to kind of a greater horizon.
Good. What was high school like for you?
High school was cool.
High
school was cool. So
great student or athlete or just kind of.
I wasn't an athlete. I was always 85 pounds and a lighter going to school. But no, the high school was cool. You know, to be quite honest with you, the latter part of my high school was a little bit different. I decided to stay on my own. As my mom located to San Antonio. I didn't want to move to San Antonio, so I decided to stay on my own. So I was, you know, roughly about 16 years old. I was on my own.
What, you had your own apartment?
Nah, I mean, mom's had we had Section 8, right?
So she had a spot there.
Yeah, and then she was there, and, you know, I was working at HEB, and I was able to pay the little bit of rent that was there. And,
at 16?
16 years old.
Wow, so you grew up pretty fast, man.
Yeah.
Were your sisters and brothers there, or you?
My brothers were there for the most part. My older brother went away when he went to what is that? When you go to basic training?
Oh, okay.
And then my younger brother went ahead and moved up down to San Antonio.
With your mom?
Yeah, no, with his dad. It was in San Antonio. Okay. And it was just me, right? So at that point, I moved in with a friend and his family to finish out my school in there in Killeen. And then I was, you know, that's kind of how my life started at that point, right? So
that started some independence, big time.
Yeah.
Huh?
So when you think about, you know, everyone looks at kind of where I am and what I've accomplished thus far. I think the assumption is that I come from somewhere, or I had great examples of what it's like to own a business or to take that risk.
Right.
But it was something that I had no choice, right? I had to go make it happen.
Yeah, you had to make it happen. You had to eliminate fear because, I mean, who do you rely on? If you don't make it happen, nobody else will. So you graduated high school at Killeen, and then from that point, did you go to college? Yeah.
So the story is, I drove my friend and I, and rest his soul, you know, he got murdered. But we left the guy that I was staying with in my senior year at high school. We left Killeen to go to LA to live with my biological father.
Oh, really?
And out-of-state tuition was too much, so we decided to go ahead and circle back. And the only school that was taking late registration was Houston-Tillotson here. So I was going to go to school there for a semester or two and then transfer over to UT. But I decided that, you know, they provided me what I needed, so I just went ahead and
obtained my HBCU there.
Yeah, obtained my degree in sociology there, minor psychology, and just, you know, I was the first to do it. So it was just something that I had.
To do it in your family? Oh, man, that's a milestone right there.
Yeah.
Now, when you finished, I'm curious, because in our community, I hear people say, hey, the guy that goes and finishes college, you know, it's like, yeah, pat on the back. But the guy that comes home from prison, he has a big party. Like, did they do a party for you?
Well, we didn't have the resources, right?
Okay.
It wasn't a big party, right? I wasn't looking for a party. I was just looking to try to see, okay, because in my mind, obtaining a degree is basically showing an employer that you have the abilities to put your mind to a goal and achieve that goal, regardless of how long it takes to achieve that goal.
Right, exactly.
So, you know, I'm in sociology, but the bulk of my career was in sales, right? Yeah. So it's like, I mean, there is a sociological aspect to that.
Yeah, of course.
But nonetheless, I wasn't a counselor.
Yeah, you wasn't a counselor. But like you said, it gave you that opportunity to set a goal, complete it, no matter how long it took, and just showing that, hey, I had the wherewithal to get this done.
Correct.
So you graduate, you know, it's like, hey, I'm graduating, I'm here in Austin, and that's where you planted your flag, or did you move somewhere else first?
No, I lived here. So story's a little bit different than that. Had a kid at the age of 22, got married at the age of 22, still married at the age of 53, but to the same person, of course.
Accomplishment, a big accomplishment.
And then that kid that I had at the age of 22 is now a doctor of pharmacy. So he achieved his degree in pharmacy, doctor's of pharmacy at TSU, and then he's got his master's in pharmacy administration at University of Wisconsin.
That's awesome.
So
man.
when I graduated, I was already working my way through school. We had a little house right next to HT. They had this community. It's called Heritage Heights that they were building there. We were one of the first families to live there. So I was staying right next door in a brand new house.
And going right from the school.
And going to school, get up and walk to school to go to school, right? But it was a program that at the time that they said that if you made over $12,000 a year and you didn't have a criminal record and you had a family of a minimum of 3, so it was me, my wife, and my son,
right?
Then they would get. So we immediately qualified for it.
Why? So you pretty much had a lot of grants.
And if you live there, if you live there for 15 years, you get to buy the house for 12 years or something like that. You get to buy the house for $1.
What?
But they changed that after a while, right? And then when I graduated and I started moving through the rankings, I guess it wouldn't have been a mortgage. It could have been a mortgage. I'm not quite sure. It started going up, and I was like, well, we might as well just go build somewhere else, right? So that's when we came out to Pflugerville.
Oh, nice. When you were in college, let me ask you this. Was there a professor or a classmate or organization, something that stood out that just made an impact?
There were a couple professors. There was Dr. Wingate, I think her name is Dr. Marshall now. I can't think of that now. I don't know. It's not Marshall, but that was her married name and she changed it back.
Right.
But Dr. Wingate was extremely helpful because she was part of the sociological kind of realm, if you will. And then there was Miss Marshall, who was basically always told me that I reminded her grandmother. And then there was my fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, which had some brothers that were really providing, a nice little setup, and they were very, very instrumental in ensuring
mentorship.
Yeah, they were. It was just part of the whole brotherhood, right? It wasn't a part of like being in a gang, but you were part of this. You were part of a community that everybody wanted to grow and be somebody.
Right. And they all had each other's back.
Correct.
On top of that.
Right. So you inspired that. And then I had my wife, and then obviously I have my kid, right? So, when you think about internal inspiration or inspiration that I created, that was something that was created as well.
You had to live that example. I had a kid early, and I feel like that kind of saved me from going hard left in a lot of situations because it wasn't just me at that point. I had like a legacy to kind of start to build and figure out how to leave behind. So it's good that you had that. So finished college, you got a house out in Pflugerville, you and your wife and kid. Where did you work at?
I worked at Dell Computers. So coming out of college, I was working at a company called First USA Bank, which was acquired by some credit card company. I got out of that. I worked my way I worked my way through college. So the hardest year for me was in 92, right? So 92 actually, 93. Well, my son was born in December of 92.
Okay.
I got married in February of 93. I pledged a fraternity it was pledging a fraternity at the same time. I was working full time and I was going to school full time.
Whoa.
And I had this house that was right next door.
Oh my gosh, man. That sounds like a lot.
So when you think about it, so my work was simply, when I got out, I was working for AT&T before Sprint and Verizon and all those came in. I was an AE there. Did great. Then I went, in 96, I got on with Dell and I worked there for 14 years and I worked there for 3 as an individual contributor. Then I became a leader of the next 11 years. I was just leading different groups throughout Dell. Then from there, I went to Microsoft, worked there for 5.5 years as a director. Then from there, I went to Dropbox. They hired me there to kind of work them
Where that leadership, like, did you gain that while working at Dell? Like just some of those leadership skills? Because it's not hard building a team and having a team follow you.
Well, no, I mean, I think the leadership aspect came in. It was just something that was innately a part of me and that was discovered as I was working my way through school. Like I always felt like I could teach what I've learned. And I always was very, very excited about seeing the growth in somebody else.
Yeah, I get it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you teach what you learn and then you see them grow and you're like, wow. So,
Right.
So it was just something that it became a part of my core.
Yeah. I'm thinking back at 16, like pretty much without your family there and, working in high school, like I'm sure some of that work ethic has started there where it's like, hey, these are the things, these are the steps I need to take to be successful.
Well, I mean, when you think about it at the age of 16, I mean, we all think that we're invincible and nothing can really stop us, right? You get that deal like I'm never going to die. I'm going to be 16 for the rest of my life. I might get to 21 because 21 I can drink, right? But I think that the thing that continues to kind of, I guess, help get me to those next point is that the cliff, there's never a cliff because I'm always jumping.
Right. I like that.
So if there was a cliff, if I viewed that as a cliff, then I would be afraid.
Would be
to
the
jump.
end. It just stand there and
so
look.
Where most will come and stop, I will keep going because they created that cliff. I don't see a cliff. I'm going because if you go back to 16, I could have gotten myself in. I could have had baby kids here,
all kind of stuff.
I could have gotten so much trouble. But I didn't see that, right? I saw that as just another opportunity to just kind of continue to kind of make it on my own. It's not going to stop right here. So my mindset is that the way, and again, I guess this was established a long time ago, and then my son is the same way, and I'm sure my daughter will be the same way as well. But my mindset is that as long as there's other opportunities to do something as opposed to being idle, they go do it. So Crab Kings was started when I was back at Oracle. I was a sales director with Oracle. Did Crab Kings. I was doing that on the weekends. Got that going. Got some workers in place because I understood kind of the management aspect of it. So you get workers and you kind of
train.
You train them. Yeah. You have them know the system. So really, I'm making money while I'm making money. Right. So get another location. So now I'm making money while I'm making money.
Nice.
Right. So when this came about, the Cigar Lounge came about, I was at TikTok, and I just said, because it wasn't stopping me. It's like it doesn't. I guess for me, it's not the cliff wasn't there, right? It was just like, well,
there's no cap on what you want to do.
Yeah, it's like it's there. You have the resources, you have the wherewithal, you understand kind of the dynamics of doing business. So why not just go ahead and jump out there and get it done?
Do you ever create a business plan, or do you kind of just concoct it in your head and just take what you've learned from the past and just reduplicate it in another industry?
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
It's because I think with a business plan, I think it's ideal to do that, but typically people do that because they're looking for the funding, right? So I don't never want to get into anything to where I'm paying you, $350,000 for your plan, and then I'm paying you a royalty fee of 5% of my gross, regardless if I'm making it or not, for your plan. Yeah. And then I'm living out your dream for you when I could just do it on my own.
Right.
Because when they started, they probably just started with an idea and a concept, and now when they want to franchise it out, they create that whole footprint, that business plan, because now they want people to come in.
Right. It's ready made for you at that point. Hey, and it's just give me my royalties.
That's it, and you're good to go.
So starting a business, I mean, obviously, I tell all my everybody that I come across, it takes money, right? Unless you were born with a silver spoon, it takes some discipline on being able to not mix business money with personal money, to reinvest in the business, to maybe even figure out how to raise the capital. Did you use all your own capital, or in the beginning, or how did that work?
Yeah, it's typically just my own. But and again, I guess when you think about financial literacy, that was something that I taught myself as well, right? So I didn't go cash all my stock in and just go get me a brand new car. Now I did do some nonsense at one point, but we all go, But then I started realizing that 401k, IRAs, IRA, and Roths. So it's more about being able to make sure that I have some capital to do other things that are going to help me, triple or quadruple that capital that I have, right? So that's kind of what I did.
Because you look at the returns on some of those 401ks or Roths or whatever, and maybe 6%. Then you think, okay, could I use that money, or should I leave that to diversify, but then also have some other money and see if I can make a bigger return or a better return, and then dump money into what's working a little bit better? Is that kind of what you saw? Or?
Yeah. Okay. And then I'm the guy that I love to mitigate the risk and share the reward.
That's nice. I like that.
So that means you get a partner. So me and the partner, we, if we say, okay, this is going to cost us $150,000, just from the ideas, we're going to build this here, we're going to do this, we need this, so we got a plan of $150,000. That's $75,000 for me. Right. That's $75,000 for you. Now, the win-win is that once we get that, we'll get our money back, hopefully in a short period of time, and now we're just eating to going forward. Or if we lose, I only lost 75.
Right.
And you only lost 75.
Exactly, instead of a big chunk. And I always tell people that, if you manage your money right, and if you use some money to invest, it should be some money that, obviously we don't set to invest to lose, but some money that if you invest, it doesn't cripple you and your household.
Correct.
It's money that, hey, I've saved, I planned, and now I can invest this. And obviously I want to make it grow, but it's not going to destroy us.
Correct.
How did your wife deal with you, man? Coming up with ideas? She's
just used to it. Yeah, she's just used to it.
She's calm and cool, or does she show doubt, or who's the doubtful people in your family?
She'll give a little bit of doubt, but for the most part, she provides way more support than she does doubt. Because I try to, because it's hard to. It's almost like, somebody who's close to you, they know you, but they don't know how they can't quite figure out how you think.
Right.
And so you just kind of somewhat have to just lay it out. Like, here's kind of the way I'm looking at it, and then maybe you can ascertain kind of some of the ideas that you've conjured up.
Yes.
And say, all right, that's cool.
So, I mean, is that a lot of times, as an entrepreneur, you have to come up with these ideas, and maybe you spend sleepless nights or maybe you wake up in the middle of the night and an idea clicks. Yeah. How do you come up with most of your ideas?
It's just really, you know what? When I worked for Dropbox, the Drew Houston, or spelled Houston, but he pronounced it Houstons, is the CEO. And when you think about Dropbox is just basically a different way of accessing stored
files, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So instead of having that thumb drive or that big hard drive or that laptop, now you just got a server that you can access. It has that has that data on it, right? Right? So what he said in that meeting that we were when I got hired there, and they had the executives in the room and talking to him, was that he didn't create storage. He just created a way to use storage more easier.
Easier
access to storage, right? So it wasn't that he came up and like, oh, wow, I got this grandiose idea where you can store data. And it was like, he said, I have a way where you can do the things that you've grown accustomed to, and you don't have to be tied to these different products. It's ubiquitous, right? So it can go to any platform. If there's an internet, and there's a platform, you got access to your data. So when you think about that concept, when my ideas come up, it's not necessarily taking ideas or creating something new.
Right.
It's just doing something that's been there a little bit different.
Nice. You're not recreating the wheel. You're just like, hey, maybe throwing some rims on it or something.
Yeah, that's it.
Got it. I like it, man. That's nice. So, so your hands are in multiple businesses. When you think about running a business, we always think about like creating leverage, or like I have the story where there's hunters, right? You can be the hunter that goes out and you hunt for deer or whatever and bring it back to your family. And you have to that deer may last 3 days, but then every 3 days you have to go back out, seek and find. Or you can be the type of person that spends your time, build a fence, you get a female male deer, let them mate. It'll take some time, but over time you'll have a whole yard full of it. So it's creating a system and using that leverage to let it grow. Obviously, you've learned that in business. Tell me a little bit about how you make that work for you.
It's really about just one, truly understanding kind of the need, right? Or the lack thereof, i.e. the cigar lounge. Think about this. In the last few years, I've probably spent, I don't know, countless days, hours, money at a cigar lounge, but it wasn't necessarily catered towards me in the instant, per se.
All right.
Can you please turn your music down, sir? I want to put you guys outside. We're going to go in here and watch movies. And if y'all have to use the restroom, just go around the corner.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I didn't create a cigar lounge. But I created a lounge where I feel comfortable with the music that's being played. I feel comfortable with the people that's there. And I feel as if, there's no concern on whether or not, because of the color of my skin, that I feel that I'm being violated. Because it doesn't play. Now, granted, the one that I own is just that. It's anybody. It's not just people with melanin in their skin, right? Exactly. But it's anybody. And because someone made the comment the other day, like, Andre, everybody comes in here and just chill.
Yeah.
And that's the type of environment that we wanted to create. But when you go somewhere else and that environment isn't created as such, and they're playing Fox News, and there's 4 TVs in there. The only one with the channel up is Fox News.
Right. Yeah. You isolating the whole demographic.
You telling me that you probably don't want
you there. Right.
You'll never come and see Fox or CNN News.
Right.
In our spot, right? Because it's just not. It's not being inclusive. We want to create an environment. We have a commonality that's to enjoy a nice fine smoke, have a little drink, and do our thing.
It's a great vibe, man. You created an amazing environment. And, part of that takes time and effort and some of your capital. And, so when you start a business or start something like that, like I was just mentioning to you, hey, I want to give something free. Just teach. I'm not worried about the reward, but I know the input will affect that output eventually. Do you ever, when you started that, I'm sure you had to like nights like, man, we're not generating anything at this point.
Yeah, because when you think about it, now it's just as you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to first, it's almost like whenever you buy a new humidor, we call it seasoning. You take the little oil or whatever it is, and you wipe it down under the cedar, the Spanish cedar, and you let it sit for a while so it can be seasoned. It can maintain that 68, 70, 72 degree temperature to make sure your sticks are cool.
Right.
Right. So when you think about this business, the way I seasoned this business is that we didn't have any rules first. It was kicking it. You come in there, you bring your drink. If you want to bring your own cigars, come bring your own cigars and bring it in here. Just create the vibe so you can see what we're about. Now it's gotten to the point to where everyone's seen what the vibe is about. They like the vibe, whether it's 30 degrees, 18 degrees outside. We got 40 people on the inside, right?
Exactly.
But nonetheless, it was now it's time to say, okay, we've given that, we provided that, but in order to continue to kind of drive our business north of where we are, we're going to have to ask that you at least buy a cigar or pay a cutting fee to sit in here now.
We've given you an opportunity to enjoy yourself, this space. So just to keep it going, pay it forward.
Yeah, and you know how many people say, Dre, if this closed down, man, you know what would happen? I'm like, yeah. I mean, we have nowhere to go where this vibe is created.
Nowhere. I love it.
So it's more about, to your point, right? It's more about giving initially in order to help build out what was there. Now, some people just truly understand the rules, right? They just get it, right? Me personally, I don't go to a cigar lounge and I own one. I don't ever take cigars to a cigar lounge,
right? No,
because I'm a buy.
I want to buy. I want to support.
I want to support. I want to support you, whether you want me there or not. If I'm in your lounge, I want to support you.
It's almost like a motto of, hey, come and enjoy and donate if you please. Like here's people kind of get it. Like, all right, I want to donate to this. I want to keep this going. I like this environment. Yeah. You're not charging a cover charge. You know what I mean? So it's crazy because usually whenever there's an environment set up for us, you got all these free bars and lounges throughout the city of Austin. But when it's something for us, it's always a cover charge. I'm like, man, I feel slighted when I go through $20. Come on, man. I can go right there. But it's a level of support. And when you put it that way, it makes so much sense at that point. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what the lounge. So with the restaurant, like, are you one of those entrepreneurs that feels like, hey, it's going to probably take me 5 years before I see a profit, or are you figuring out ways to turn that over faster?
No, when we opened the doors of that restaurant, of the brick and mortar on 685, we got our investment back in about a month.
What do you attribute to that? That's a great turnaround.
It was just the marketing. We'd already had on the truck. We already built up the hype. People already following the truck. We just took that truck to the brick and mortar. Line was...
People came.
Pre-COVID line was way back there.
Wow. Build it and they will come.
So the support was amazing.
Oh, that's great, man. So, I mean, you got your hands in a few things and I like your mindset. So what's next? What do you see this going?
Again, the thing that I've been kind of toying with a little bit, and I've put my fillers out there on it and not sure if I'm going to take this step or not, but I was like the trucking game. Yeah. Right? Because think about it. In my mind, again, I'm not creating trucking. Right. I want to take away the idea of the fear of being out there and getting into the trucking business. I want to be able to employ people who, we have mistakes in life. Right. And pay them according to the load. Like if I'm saying you're getting 30% of the profits, I'm sure I don't have anything to hide.
Anything.
Hey, here's the paperwork. You're getting 30% of this.
That transparency, gives that trust. Right? Yeah.
So that means the likelihood of them leaving me to go somewhere else is going to be very, very low. Nice. As opposed to saying, hey, I'm gonna pay you $1,500 a week when I'm making $13,000 a week. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So why just open up the books like, hey, based on after the costs associated with this happens, then this is kind of what we do right here.
Man, I can see how you think, man, and you're definitely a problem solver. You can kind of see the need and see how I can put these two together. There's a need for this, and just merge it and make it work.
Because you get so many brothers. Like I get a lot of brothers that are in the trucking game, and they're depending on somebody else to make sure that they're successful. And the idea for me is like, why haven't someone created this whole? And maybe they have, I just don't know who they are. Right. But this whole notion of like, hey, there's a great deal of transparency. I have the contracts. I have the dispatcher. You have the truck. Right. Or if you don't have a truck, I got a truck I can
provide it for you.
You know what I mean? And it's I think if you're here, when you think about the pecking order, the contract is the highest. Dispatcher's gonna get their little bread off of it, then they're gonna sell it to you at whatever, so they can get their costs to the trucker.
Right.
And we all deal down here. We're here all the time. So how do we get here? And then we show here that from top to bottom, you're making love.
Hey, we're showing you that. Hey,
you won't go anywhere.
All right,
You're like, even people who are used to quote unquote make love, they would come work for a company like that because they're so honest. So I had a conversation last night at the lounge with a brother there, Delbert, and it was more about, he owns a company, Changing Lanes. And it was more about just kind of, how do I figure out how to do this? We looked at some prices of trucks. I want to get my own personal CDL, so I don't want to be able to just buy trucks and not know what to do with the truck. I want to be able to get in the truck and do something with it. And at the same time, if I do a podcast, if I do a YouTube channel, I don't want to say, well, pay me $1,500 and I'm gonna show you how to get this done.
Right.
I'm gonna say, come work. Let's work this thing together, and we can get it done together.
Let's come. I'm not gonna play you for just information, because information is so important. Just come and gain the information and the knowledge. I was so thinking about trucking as well, but the only thing is, I didn't want to get the CDL, and I knew, like, man, if you don't want to get in this truck yourself, Dre, it's kind of like if I owned a McDonald's. I probably have to sweep the floors, cook the fries, make the burgers, so I can know the entire operation. So that was the one thing that stopped me, and I was like, well, I could just get these trucks and get these contracts and put other people in it. But you just never know. Sometimes good help is hard to find. So what if somebody leaves your truck in Colorado? What are you going to do? Can you go get it?
That's why you got to get the CDL.
Yeah, that's why you got to get it. So maybe I might get to that point. I don't know.
So I've been toying with that, right? But I think I want to go back out into corporate America just for a little bit longer, just to kind of gain some additional capital. And because my capital has been stretched thus far with the other stuff I have. So I'm like, okay, how did I get there? Let's rinse and repeat and get something else. Then we get back out and do it again, What
would you tell a person that, how do you feel about reinvesting in your business? Like, do you have a formula where there's a certain percentage that you put back into the company, or do you put 100%?
No, I don't think there's a percentage. I would just say, just be mindful of the business operation, right? Understand incidentals. Understand, like, taxes is going to come up. If you make a $2.3 million in revenue, doesn't necessarily mean you and your partner splitting
that.
I mean, you probably end up splitting 300,000 out of 2.3, right? When you think about your payroll taxes, it's insurance, you name it, right? There's a lot that goes into this. So I would just tell everyone that when you get into business, even if you're as a silent partner, do your best to understand the totality of doing business.
Right.
If you made $80,000 or $100,000 in that month, or $200,000 in that month, that's not a profit. I mean, in many cases, you could still be in the red.
You could still be in the red, definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's really about truly understanding, like, what are your costs for? What are your inventory costs? What does it cost to break even? How much you got to pay for taxes? Your rent is concerned, your security, all the things that go in with that, right?
Yeah.
But another model that I live by is short-term sacrifice for long-term goal.
Nice.
Right.
Explain that a little bit.
So short-term sacrifice is like, what are you sacrificing now to achieve that ultimate goal that you have in mind? Right. So example, I want that new Benz, right?
Right.
I want that G-Wagon. I want that whatever it is. So as soon as I get this bread, I'm going to go get it.
Right.
But my advice to you is, like, how much are you going to sacrifice? Can you sacrifice more before you get that?
Right.
Because if that G-Wagon's cost you $120,000, $200,000, whatever it might cost you, and you put down $80,000, $90,000, could you possibly take that $80,000, $90,000 to make that help you make more money, which in turn will then buy that G-Wagon?
Exactly.
So now you got another little something in the way, as opposed to your main source. You create a secondary source. Instead of the main source paying for it, the secondary source is paying for it. So you're still getting more money from your main source while your secondary source is paying for this.
That's how it goes. In my business in real estate, like, I manage a lot of properties, have investment properties, and so I want the asset to pay for that vehicle.
Correct.
Okay, great. I'm making $500 a month off of that. That can pay a car note. And so it doesn't come out of my personal account. That business or that asset is generating revenue, paying for itself, and on top of that, paying for the toys that I want.
Correct.
So that's a great philosophy. That's something that I live by as well. So I love it. one of the things I do want to kind of find out, man, because man, I always put a cap on this show about how long I want to talk, but I love how you think, man. I love like, hey, Dre to Dre. I love when people are cut from that cloth and understand business and understand systems and setting that up and understanding how to control their capital. Because my main thing is if you don't control your money, it's going to control you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it doesn't feel good when you control by a dollar, you know? So, you know, when you talk to people about business, you know, usually people break it down into core principles. Do you have a set of like core principles that you could be able to articulate to people?
I mean, I think the core principles in my mind, there's a few, right? But the one is to me personally, and that may be the sociological aspect of it, is just to value my people, right? I mean, because without my people, there is no business, right? Because unfortunately, I can't, or fortunately, I can't run that business by myself. Just me and my partner. There's absolutely no way we can run these businesses by ourselves, right? The second thing is just be mindful of like your consumers, right? Understand that there's a dynamic that you have to play. You know, sometimes you get customers who are going to complain, and that's just what it is. Not a lot of time I don't even reply back because I think it's just a way for them to vent.
Right.
You know, unfortunately, sometimes when it comes to us, we are harder on each other than we are on other companies, because there's been many a times where I missed my fries, they forgot my fries, or they forgot to put cheese on my burger at McDonald's.
Right.
And I just say I get them next time.
Go back.
No, then go by. I don't even I don't go to the World Wide Web and go to their site and say, hey, they missed my cheese. I just say, hey, I just chalk it up to the game.
Right.
But with us, I mean, we find that there are people that will literally take the time, as opposed to giving us an opportunity to make it right. They will take the time to kind of just. So that's just part of the game, and I get it. It's not a. You
don't take it personal.
No, because I mean, I think that we owe them. Yeah. We owe them what they expected, and there may be someone new in place that they didn't know. There may be something that just took place that we were unaware of, and I get it. They paid their money. They want this, but I personally take the mindset that I like to give someone the opportunity to make it right first. So if I came to Dre's, you know, I don't have hair, but if my haircut was messed up, I might not go out to the World Wide Web and say, hey, they did a terrible job. I'm like, hey, bro, my line was a little messed up, you know, but you know, I
just want a chance to make it right.
Maybe it was a bad day, or maybe you didn't understand what I was talking about. But if you could, you know, see how it works, and then you might make it better than what I thought it was going to be to begin with, right?
Yeah.
But if I at least give you the opportunity to make it right. Exactly. So it's truly trying to, I guess that's the core value, is trying to understand the people and provide that level of respect. And then it's just really being open, man. It's just, you know, it's like having the opportunity to show people that I'm a person.
Right.
Like it's amazing sometimes when a lot of people see me or meet me like, oh, you the one that own, and I'm like, nah, I'm just Dre, man. I drive a little hybrid Lexus house. I mean, I got a few cars, but that's the one I like to drive. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I'm saying I'm just me, right? Yeah. I don't come.
I'm no different than you.
Yeah, exactly. You know? Right. And that's truly, I mean, it's not that I say it for the sake of saying it as a common a statement that people normally say, but it's truly what I believe. Like, I don't consider myself any different than you.
Right.
I just consider myself in a different position because I've taken risks. And quite honestly, you might be in a better position than me because I've taken so many risks.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but it's just that we're just on two different dynamics, but in my mind, we're basically equally yoked.
That's how you get that great. That's how you get that connection to the consumer, right?
Yeah.
And so I like that. This is what I remembered. I had a question. I forgot it. It went around a mosey bush, but I came back. So when you first start, obviously as an entrepreneur, you wear a lot of hats. There's a term, and I use it sometimes. Good help is hard to find, but I'm going to stop saying that because I want to speak into existence that I have great help. I have great employees, partners. What's that transition like from you like wearing those hats to being able to employ others?
It's actually kind of easy, to be honest, right? I mean, because again, I give you, if you say you can do it, I'm going to trust that you can do it.
Okay.
Right? Once we showed you, we try to simplify everything to the T. Like, here, push this timer. When that timer goes off, you pull it out, put it in the thing. Boom. If you need to make this particular plate, when that all the ingredients are right there. Just make that.
Follow it to a T.
Yeah. If there's a special instruction, it's on the receipt. Just do that. Boom. At the end of the night, here's how you close up the books. Boom. Just drop it in the Dropbox. We got it from there. You're good. Right.
Right.
So it's really trying to just simplify that. And the expectations aren't that if I can do it, you can do it. But I'm not going to expect for you to do something that I don't know how to do.
Got it.
You know what I mean? So you wear those hats because you set those parameters in place. And then when you set those parameters, you show them how to achieve that same level of work, if you will. Right. And then from there, they're going to go back and try to repeat that. And then you want to just be, hey, it's all good. Don't worry about it. Oh, I messed. Hey, it's good. Just, I mean, if you said it every day, then there's a problem, right? But if there's one time,
it happens. We're human. Right.
Don't worry about it. We got you.
What about, do you give your employees the autonomy to say, okay, I like this process, Dre, but like you come in the next day, hey, we've changed this a little bit. It's so much more efficient.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, our managers, for sure. We give them like, hey, we decided we want to do this instead. We want to use this over here and do that instead. We want to do that instead. Like, hey, cool. Cool.
Nice.
We want to run this. I want to put the schedule like this. It's going to save us on some hours. Like, cool.
Right.
Because now we're giving you that mindset. The thing is too, one of the things, Dre, that I think that I've shared with a couple of people is that one day I want you to have your own.
Right.
And I don't have to be a part of it.
But that gives them that buy-in to say, hey, this is my business, but guess what? You're a part of it. You're not an employee. See yourself as a partner.
Yeah. One day you have your own, so when you have your own, then you could just say, hey, I kind of understand how to do this. You flying out here, you see that, if you work in a food truck downtown, and you're the only one there, you really running a business, partner.
Yeah. You're tied to it. It's all you. Yeah.
You running from start to finish.
Right. And hey, show them how to leverage up. How many people come to you, man, and just kind of look for some mentorship or just want to pick your brain?
It's crazy. I don't really keep account. One brother came to me, and he's the one that really got me because I was thinking about trucking because one of my business partners who owns Krab, he's with me in Kansas City. He got into trucks, and so he's driving his truck. So I was thinking about trucking, and this brother came to me about maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, and he's like, Dre, I've been watching you. I'm like, okay. He's like, yeah, I've been kind of, the way you move, I appreciate that. And he said, I would pay for you to mentor me. I'm like, why would you pay? Why would I? That's not a mentorship if you pay me to mentor you, right? And then I said, so we got to talking, and then he said, he drives trucks. He'd been driving trucks for about a year. And I'm thinking to myself, because I was praying, like, what do I need to get myself into now? Because an idle mind for me is not good.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Just sitting idle. That's no bueno for me, right? I got to keep it moving. But it's more about like when he said that, I was thinking, okay, let's see what we can do in your world.
Right.
Don't come to my world. And that's when my wheels start turning, because he was sharing with me how the dispatcher will share deals with certain people, wouldn't share deals with him. He's got to feel like he's doing this, and he's under the leadership of somebody who doesn't really care about whether or not he's successful. And it's more of a Latino thing for
maybe some nepotism. I'm gonna give it to my people.
And so we said, okay, well, then that's that Drew House, and like I'm not creating trucking.
Right.
I just want to make it better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Create a process to make it better.
If you can create a process to make this one guy happy, now boom.
You got so many other people because you got a lot of people that may think that way that I had never come across. But when I say that it's like a $10.4 billion business.
Oh yeah.
I'm thinking like, well, if that's a $10 billion business and I just want a little bit.
Right, it's a big enough slice for you to get a piece.
Just a little corner. I'm good. Give me a crumb. We good.
All right, I get it.
Yeah.
Hey, man, we got a part in our show, man, where I kind of like to, throw out a couple of words, or maybe just one word, and you can answer in one word or a sentence. But I just kind of want to see what it means to you.
Okay.
Just hearing everything you do, man, it's just one word that's been standing out, and I want to hear how you feel about sleep.
As of lately, sleep has been a lot for me, to be quite honest. And that's why I say I got to get out there and do something. But the idea of sleep to me is 7 hours of sleep. I'm good. Let's go.
You're not working all night. You cap it and say, hey.
Yeah, because, it's, again, the term I use, short-term sacrifice for long-term goals. If you put the processes in, it's going to take you a few hours to work those processes out. You're going to go into the wee hours of the night to work those processes out.
Right.
And then once those processes are worked out, then it's just
it's an automatic cycle.
That's it, right? Now, if you continue to work them processes, then you're doing something wrong,
right?
Because you're
it's not perfected. It's not efficient, right?
It's not efficient at all, right? So then you feel like, okay, it's defeating the purpose, and that's one reason why I left TikTok, is because those processes, there was never a streamlined thing for me. So we came to terms that, hey, this is obviously not the role for me. I'm a sales guy. This is more of a program management type deal where you guys have you're creating processes all the time, and I'm more like, okay, we got a process. Let's go execute and let's go generate some revenue from there, right? Lead a team to go drive that.
Exactly.
I don't have the mindset of finishing a process just to create another process, just to create another process, just to create another process.
That can be exhausting, and you haven't even followed one through to see it yield its fruit.
Correct.
And that's been my thing. Like, hey, I want to create my processes where you can plug a chimpanzee in the middle of it and it can still make it work. Yeah. So good. All right, so sleep. So you do get sleep. All right, that's good.
I think I get too much sleep right now, but hopefully it'll come back down. Because my wife and I normally watch a documentary or two and go to bed at 2 or 3 o'clock. I'm getting up at 11.
Okay, good.
You know what I mean? So I get it in.
You get it in. Good. Let's talk about revenue.
Revenue for me is extremely important on a couple of different aspects. One is in the realm of profitability, right? So if I'm spending X amount of money, I want to make sure that I'm able to secure X amount of return on that money, and I also have to make sure that it's in a specific time frame. Because when you think about how running your business is, how you got your payroll, you got your taxes. I got to buy more cigars. I got to make sure this location is doing great. This location, we got inventory money over here. We got inventory money over there. I got to make sure this card is paid. I got to make, you know what I mean? So so revenue for me is extremely important, because I think that it's actually the nectar of what we do, right? It's driving revenue. But revenue the right way, right? Something that's repeatable. Right. I don't like to go and do something like, you do this big wham bam thing and you made all this revenue, but there's absolutely no way you can make that thing happen every week.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's like a once in a year opportunity to do that. So, but every week it's not going to happen. So that revenue component of it is extremely important. How do we get to a point to one, we're generating enough to where we can cover our basis and also, reap some of the reward. Yep. And then at the same time, we can also maybe invest in other opportunities to grow.
Good. And you mentioned something like, hey, this big blowout this month isn't sustainable. But it's always good to kind of look back at your records across the year and know how those ebbs and flows go in your business. So sometimes you can plan around it. I know January to this time, the harvest is plentiful, and then we kind of dry up a little bit. Then it goes. So it's important to track that. I got one more word for you. So we said revenue. We said sleep. God, it slipped me, man. I got to blame it on the Brown West. Man, what was that word I was going to say? And it was profound. But let me just throw this out here. So sleep, revenue, to set it all off, let's just talk about family, man.
Yeah. Family is important to me, man. Family is extremely important to me. So think about this. Think about a kid growing up at the age of 16. I met my dad when I was about 12, right? He's down here now. He's actually works in a cigar lounge with us. I mean, he's a great pops, right? But hims and moms had some challenges, whatever, back in the day. But let's take him out of the equation. So I'm raised by a single mom for the most part. She's got married a few times to guys which are in the military. It wasn't always the utmost kind of the most respectful type of relationship that you would want. That we weren't nowhere near the Huxtables, right?
I get you.
And then you create this family, right? And you find all the challenges, or you identify all the challenges that you've been through as a kid. There's nights where you went to bed and we had to sleep on the kitchen floor downstairs because we couldn't run the AC because it was too much money. You go into the refrigerator, there's just bologna and that government cheese that they have right there, right? There's these things that resonate with you. And so when I think about family, when I think about creating a family, I think about creating an environment for people that I truly love, and I can do all that I can to ensure they don't experience any of the things that I've experienced. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's so when I think about, when someone looks at this kid who was 16 years old, who had a little bit of, I had some visions to different aspects of the world, but then I came back in, come back into my adulthood, and now I'm solo, and now I got to go make this thing happen, and now I have this little boy at age 22 years old, and I was looking like I was 13, right?
Right.
And I'm married at 22 years old, and we both looking like we're 13. And so it's what do I do? But my driving force was I cannot fail. I can't fail him. And then my daughter came 6 years later, and I can't fail her. Because if I fail them, I fail me. I fail us. And so to see him go off and obtain something that I never thought the kid who had nothing could have a kid
that can do that.
That can do this. And my daughter, she's completing a school called SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design.
Oh, okay, nice.
It's a well-renowned art and design school out in Atlanta. Well, Savannah, Atlanta, Hong Kong, and Japan, I think they have them in. Nice. But she's completing she'll be done here in March.
Wow, you did something
so
right.
She's an she'll be an interior designer where they kind of take the blueprints and they can build stuff out. So, and she does amazing work. She's going to do our home. She might be able to, hook up with her.
Connection.
So, but when you think about, I sometimes have to do a reality check, right? Because I think about, I had none of that. I had no examples. I had no mentors.
Right.
I had nothing.
This doesn't come with a handbook.
Yeah. I had nothing, but I knew that based on what I wanted, I have to create that. So when I talk to them sometimes, it's funny because their reality is not my reality, but it's the reality that I created for them.
Yeah.
With that, we don't even know what that's about. I'm like, well, okay, I get that, but I'm trying to tell you what it's about.
Right.
So when you talk about family, man, that's like that's the essential core of who I am. And that's one reason why I do a lot of the things that I do now or why I've done a lot of things that I've done, because I realized that as an individual who is supposed to be a part of a system that becomes a very cyclical type thing, right? You just go into this, you go into this thing, you do this, you be baby daddy, you go back on welfare, you go this, you go over here, you get divorced, you do that.
That cycle.
I immediately
severed it.
Yeah. But so I guess my mind is still stuck in some of that stuff that I grew up in, right? And it's really hard to explain to them why I'm the way that I am towards them, because I don't want them to even be anywhere near what I was, because I know what it's like, and I know that it still exists. But they don't get it because they don't understand. They've never been there.
They never been there. We shield them from it, right?
Yeah. So it's like, I'd like, Dad, I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm like, well, I'm just listen, just believe me.
Just take it.
So when you say family, I mean, I know I go off on a little bit of a tangent, but I think that I think in order to truly understand like me as an individual, when it comes down to driving like my family, like more specifically my kids, and it's because they're part. My wife could leave me tomorrow, right? But my kids will always be a part of me.
Exactly.
And it's really about like just being able to just make sure that they truly understand that Pops did all that he could to make sure that you could be the best that you can be. And the expectation is you don't have to pay it back. You got to pay it forward. So I have a granddaughter.
I was about to say, is grandpa?
That's was supposed to be here. What's today? Thursday. Today. But they got to introduce her next week because she was supposed to be born today.
Oh, okay, man. Congratulations.
Yeah. So this being my first, right? So, but it's really about being able to make sure that they invest, if not what I've invested in, even that much more.
Even more. Yeah.
Because, her family's been, her mom and dad's been married for a few, 28, 29 years. We've been married for 30, going on 31
Great
years.
example of that.
Yeah. So you got 60 years of marriage between the two of them. So you guys should, if something, I'm sure there's, whatever you're going through, one of the couples have been through that before.
Yeah, use us as a resource. Come talk to us.
So it's really about just ensuring that they apply that right attention, that right rigor, and just all that love that you can provide to those, to your kids, and then just grow. Like if I could live to be 3,000 years old, I would love to see the lineage.
That, yes,
because for me, I think it all starts right here, right? Because before, Mom did her thing, and then bless her heart, right? I mean, she did what she could do, but when you think about like where we were, I wasn't set up to be where I am today.
You weren't set up for that success.
No. I didn't have someone that was going to put me through school. I didn't have someone that was making sure that, I got all the things I needed, the essentials, while because my wife didn't work. She hadn't worked for like 20, 30 something years, right? So she was at home and I was out doing this, right? So she was taking care of this while I was taking care of that. So as a team, they were well taken care of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you did your job as a man. I mean, and to continue. And don't say your wife didn't work. I'm sure she worked hard.
No. I mean, outside the house. I mean, outside the house. Yeah. No, don't. If you see this, don't. Yeah.
Well, hey, Dre, man, it's definitely a pleasure. Why don't you tell the people where they can find your establishments at?
Yeah. So we have a food truck. I think it's 1108 12th Street in Austin, and we have is it 12? Golly, what is it? FM 685. Is it 1202 FM 685 Suite 1A and 1B?
It's on
2B.
Google, right? Google's your friend, people.
So Krab Kings. I'm sorry because I got a few locations and I'm trying to keep these things in my mind as far as the address is concerned. My cigar lounge is at 105 East Pecan, so it's East Pecan Cigar Lounge. So if you want to go out there, I mean, you can Google it. You can go on Facebook, Instagram. You'll see that Krab Kings ATX is our Krab Kings, and East Pecan Cigars is my cigar lounge information.
Nice. Well, man, hey, it was definitely a pleasure. I learned a lot. I hope people learned a lot from listening to this. Hey, man, it's good to see, somebody like you that has that mental aptitude to, figure out a system, execute it, and make it work, man, and give back. That's the key right here. Give back.
Yeah.
And so with that one, we're going to leave you on that note. This is Boss Up with Mr. Key. This is a wrap.